So welcome everyone to Massey University. So it's a pleasure for me to talk to you tonight, and thank you TechTalk for your invitation. Is the sound okay for the... Good, perfect. So tonight I will be building this bridge between building technology and computer science. I will talk about classroom. So primary schools, I'm pretty sure quite a lot of you got some good time in primary schools. And we'll talk as well about cognitive performance, which is something about the brain, about how you reflect, how you learn. And I will talk as well about indoor air quality. So I will connect indoor air quality, smart sensor, and cognitive performance. For people who don't know what is cognitive performance, it's what kids are doing in classroom. What they are doing, it's critical thinking, learning, reasoning. It's all about decision making, so it's all about what is happening in classroom. What happened in the last 2 years, we've been warned a lot about indoor pollution. Indoor pollution can impact your cognitive performance. The higher you're exposed to pollution inside a building, the higher you will be impaired about cognitive performance. If you look at short-term memories, mathematical reasoning, if you are exposed to high level of pollutant, you won't be able to do your exercise when you're in primary school, for example. I'm a building scientist, and I'm using CO2 usually to give a good approximate about ventilation in buildings. So ventilation in buildings is very important, as you will see in my next slide. I don't know if you had a chance to listen this Sunday morning. It was 2 months ago, and there was a professor from the US warning us about indoor air quality and level of CO2 increasing, and how this can reduce your cognitive ability inside of buildings. I would like to share with you this experience. So it has been done in Berkeley, in California. What they did, they took some computer science students. There was 22 of them, so from number 1 to number 22. And they put them under different level of carbon dioxide. Okay, carbon dioxide, the unit we use is ppm, which is part per million. So they put the students under 600 ppm, then after they move the concentration up to 1000 ppm, and then they move up to 2500 ppm. And what they did, they asked these 22 students to do some tests, online tests on computers, and this test, they were targeting initiative and strategy. So how much can you do when you are exposed to different level of carbon dioxide? So 600 ppm is exactly what we've got at the moment in this room. We've got some mechanical ventilation, and on the return air going to the end, to the plant room, we've got a CO2 sensor, which is set about 700 ppm, so it's what we've got here. So we are okay at the moment because we've got mechanical ventilation. And these students were achieving quite okay. So if you look at the green diamond, so more or less they were at the top of the scale, so 30. Okay, except 2 students who are even at this level, they are not doing well. Anyway. Yeah, as you can see at Berkeley University, you still have some students who are not achieving well. So after they move to 1000, and you can see a bit of drop in the strategy and the initiative. They were not performing as well, as good in the test. And then they move to 2500 ppm, and you can see most of them are close to 0. It means that it's waste of time for the teacher, it's waste of time for the students. If we are exposed to this level of carbon dioxide, you won't be able to have some critical thinking, you won't be able to have some reasoning, some learning. So it's waste of time and waste of money. What do we have in New Zealand? So in New Zealand, for indoor air quality, we've got a standard, which is about 30 years old. Okay? And this standard say we should stay at a maximum of 1,000 parts per million. This was set in 1990, and it was about comfort. But comfort at this time, it was mainly about the smell, the body smell. Okay? It was not about cognitive performance. It was just, if you have a level of 1,000 maximum, you should not be disturbed by the smell of your neighbor in the same room. Okay? Enough ventilation going around. 2 years ago, the Ministry of Education in New Zealand, they published a report which was called Indoor Air Quality and Thermal Comfort. And they asked for something a bit higher than 1,000. They asked for a maximum of 1,500 ppm. And they asked as well for an average across a day, so from 9 to 3 p.m. for kids, maximum average of 1,200 ppm. Just a bit higher than what we've seen here in the New Zealand standard. So we've got about 2,000 primary schools in New Zealand, and this one is in Palmerston North. I was in Palmerston North, Massey Palmerston North, before moving to Albany campus. And this picture I took, so I don't know how many of you have been in primary school in New Zealand? Yeah, so you were in this type of building, so it's building built in the 1960s. One story, single glazed windows, limited insulation, quite cold in winter time. And if you want to get some fresh air, what do? You open the windows, you open the door. Okay, we don't have mechanical ventilation in most of the primary school in New Zealand, as you can get in this room, for example. So manual ventilation, open the windows to get fresh air. I did a small interview and asked teachers, how much do you open windows during teaching? What do you think? Do you think they open windows a lot? 100%. How much? 100%. So it's quite low. You will see just next slide. It was quite low. So if you look at this picture I took, so this is in Palmerston North, again, not the same school, another school, you can see that it's very packed. And in Auckland it's the same. I've got my kids in primary school, and I can tell you that their classroom look like the same. So there is no 1 square meters where you can put something, because it's all packed with posters, with artwork, even hanging from the ceiling. So imagine if you open the windows, everything will be blown out. And these windows, even they are using the windows here to put some poster on. So the only windows you can open is the one at the top, or the door, as I did when I was visiting this classroom. So I asked the question, how much do you open windows? 30% of teachers open windows during teaching, sometimes. 30% only. It means that most of them keep the windows closed. And what happens if you keep the windows closed? You build up on CO2. Then I ask another question, because you've seen this type of thing, we call it heat pump. It's growing in New Zealand. It's very good because you've got a remote control. You can set the temperature at 24 degrees, and you can stop when you're happy, so it's very handy. But the problem with this, and when I ask the teachers, do you use this for ventilation? They say, yes, of course, because there is an outside unit. And this outside unit, there is a fan, and the fan is blowing some fresh air inside of my classroom. It's completely wrong. A lot of people think that because of this outside unit, the heat pump is bringing fresh air. It's not. Heat pump is just a very performing electric heater. It's just recirculating air from the room. It's increasing the temperature, and at the same time is increasing the CO2 because you keep everything closed. And almost 50% of them rather prefer in summer to use the cooling from the heat pump than opening windows for fresh air. So it's a lot of communication, it's a lot of changing behavior of people. Going from these two studies we did before, we wanted to get some evidence-based data. Okay, we wanted to have some hard data and to measure what we can get inside of classroom. And when when you start doing some monitoring in classroom and you want to go for a high number of classroom, you know straight away that the equipment is very expensive. Looking at indoor air quality equipment is very expensive because of the small market. And if you want to look at a lot of classroom, you will pay a lot of money. You get quickly to $500,000 with monitoring equipment. So what we decided to do is to contact the supplier of the good sensor you've got on commercial equipment and to build our own box. So it's what we did. So in this box, which is 10 times cheaper than the same commercial equipment, 10 times cheaper, it's doing the same job because it's the same sensor, but we did all the connection together. It's called the SKOMOBO, the School Monitor Box. And we can monitor remotely because we are using a Vodafone mobile network to get the data to the Massey server, which is located next door from here. So for this, we received last year the award for the excellence innovation from the New Zealand Institute of Buildings. And there was a team of, as Chris said, from computer science, from building technology, from education. So at the end of the day, for the 2 years of the program, I was leading a team of 52 people. So 52 people, from professor to students or intern coming from Europe, have been involved in this, in making this box. It was funded by Building Research New Zealand. So here you can see the box ready to go to Christchurch and Dunedin. And some of European students talking to primary school students and talking about what this box is for. Here you can see one in Dunedin, and here you've got the USB dongle ready to send data directly to the Massey server. We've been monitoring this for 1 year, 1 full year, and we've got millions of data points. So big database now to look at. What I would like to do, and again, take it as just an average. It's what I did 2 days ago to give you a bit of data. It's averages. I need to do deeper analysis. Okay, it's just averages. Just want to connect this to my topic. It's why I took some data for you tonight, but it's averages. So what we've got here, we've got 12 classrooms in 4 schools in Christchurch, which is C for Christchurch, and 12 classrooms in 4 schools in Dunedin, where you got the D. So what is the SP? SP is for spring, SU is for summer, A is for autumn, and W is for winter. Okay, so you've got here the Christchurch spring, Dunedin spring, Christchurch summer, Dunedin summer, and you keep going until Christchurch winter and Dunedin winter. As you can see on this graph, you've got 2 colors. One is the blue, and the other one is the orange. The blue means that we are okay. We are exposing our kids during school time from 9 to 3 p.m. at a level of carbon dioxide to a maximum of 1,000 ppm, which is what the New Zealand standard is asking for or recommending. The orange part, it's all above because of lack of ventilation. I would like just to focus on the winter, this one, for tonight. So we've got 57% of the time the kids in Christchurch school were exposed to level of CO2, which were above 1,000 ppm. And it was very similar in Dunedin. And going a bit further, again, it's averages. 28% of the kids in Christchurch were exposed to a level of CO2 which is above 2,000 ppm. What does this mean? If you go back to this, yes. If you go back to this, at the moment we don't have the full connection, okay? We've got the level, we've got the test from Berkeley University, and we should get very similar. It means that when you expose your kids to a level of CO2 of 2,000 ppm, it's wasting time. It's better for the kids to be outside and play. and as well for the teacher, because the teacher is exposed as well to this level. So we are preparing the next generation. I'm not sure that we are preparing in the good way. So again, just try to think about this. Waste of time, waste of money as well. I've got a PhD student at the moment. She's just starting her PhD, and her PhD will be to connect this data and data like this. So she will use some EEG, so to look at the brain waves as well. She will use as well some tests from Cambridge University to look at cognitive performance, and she will look at the level in the classroom and to connect level of the class, CO2 in the classroom, level of temperature in the classroom, level of light in the classroom, acoustic as well in the classroom. And we are talking about innovative learning space, you know, having big classroom will be quite interesting as well to see how kids are achieving when they are under different type of environment. To finish my speech, I would like to talk to you about some product we developed as well. With APL Windows solution, we develop a smart Windows. It's not the Windows itself opening or closing. We've got some trickle vent. Why? It's all about security. Because in this case, the caretaker doesn't need to go around the classroom by night and to close everything, make sure that everything is closed, because it's just a trickle vent. So we've got trickle vent all around the windows. We've got cross ventilation, and this trickle vent is connected with Bluetooth to the SKOMOBO. Another product we developed as well, it's the SKOMOBO Plus. So SKOMOBO Plus is this one, so it's assistant for the kids. So it's connected as well to the SKOMOBO. It's telling, okay, I'm very little dust, I'm okay, I feel great. But if you go to the red, because you've got high level of CO2, it's telling you, it's telling you, we need some fresh air. Please open the window. So it's just to educate children to ventilate. This one is about ventilate to educate. This one is about educate to ventilate. If you want to keep 6 words from tonight, it will be this one. Ventilate to educate, educate to ventilate. This is very important. This is for me tonight.